Welcome to the live. Happy fun day. Welcome to the live. Welcome to the live. Welcome. Happy Monday, fun day, and welcome to the live. Welcome. Welcome to the live. Happy Monday, fun day. Welcome to the live. Welcome to the live. Today we're talking about how narcissistic abuse is the empath's escape and path to unity consciousness. Right? The empath's escape from narcissistic abuse and the path to unity consciousness and living the life of your dreams. Come on in. That's what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about the empath's escape from narcissistic abuse and the path to unity consciousness. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So come on in. Greetings to you wherever you are. Come on in. Today we're talking about the empath's escape from narcissistic abuse and the path to unity consciousness. Greetings to you and how this leads to you living the life that you want to live on your terms in this time. So come on in and tell somebody to tell somebody. Come on in. Happy Monday, fun day, wherever you are. For some, it might already be Tuesday. That's all right. Greetings and come on in. Today, we're talking about how the empath's escape from narcissistic abuse leads to the path of unity consciousness and the life of your dreams. It takes time. That's what we're talking about today. So come on in. And typically what would happen is I'll speak for about 10 to 15 minutes and we'll open it up for broader discussion or questions. If you're on TikTok and YouTube, you'll be able to ask questions live via video, and then I'll answer questions via text on YouTube. Happy fun day Monday. Hey Ellie, hi Jack, Miss Colleen, come on in. Today, again, the topic is self-initiation, the empath's escape from narcissistic abuse and the path to unity consciousness. So come on in. Greetings to you and come on in. Very glad to be here with you. Come on in. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes, right? We're going to get started very soon. But this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about how escaping narcissistic abuse brings you to unity consciousness, therefore the life of your dreams. That's what we're talking about today. So come on in. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Come on in. Tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody. And come on in. This is what we're talking about today. We're uncovering how escaping narcissistic abuse brings you into awakening to unity consciousness, one consciousness, and how that aligns you to the life of your dreams. So come on in. Narcissistic abuse, after all, is an initiation journey. See, it didn't just happen to you. And we're going to demystify all that today, get to the root of it, why it happened to you, and how it is actually part of your awakening, the truth of your awakening. So come on in. We're going to get started. And today, again, the topic is the empath's escape from narcissistic abuse and the path to unity consciousness, right? That's exactly what we're going to be talking about, Janelle. It's all part of it. We're going to talk about all of it, right? So come on in and tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody. This is what we're going to get into today. Now, we're going to just get started in a minute. And again, we're talking about how narcissistic abuse was an initiation and how escaping that initiation brings you to the path of unity consciousness. Happy Monday, fun day. Come on in. Come on in. Welcome. Come on in. So, we're going to be grappling today with really, why did you go through narcissistic abuse? And understanding that narcissistic abuse is an initiation path to unity consciousness. That's what we're going to be uncovering today at the deepest level. So if you're ready to understand your path, recognizing that you're not just deluding yourself on this journey, this is what we're going to be talking about today. So come on in and tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody. So let's get started. Every genuine awakening across every religion, every mystical tradition, every shamanic lineage, and exploration of consciousness follows one universal law. All awakening is self-initiation. All awakening is self-initiation, meaning your awakening cannot be conferred onto you. Your awakening cannot be transmitted into you. Your awakening cannot be granted by an institution. Your awakening cannot be bestowed upon you by a guru. That the empath escaping narcissistic abuse undergoes the same universal pattern, not through doctrine, but through a lived collapse of illusion. Because what narcissistic abuse destroys is the false identity. Narcissistic abuse destroys false belonging. Narcissistic abuse destroys false narratives. And narcissistic abuse destroys false spiritual authority. And it forces the empath onto the inner path where all authentic initiations occur. Meaning that this journey from fragmentation to coherence, from self-doubt to sovereignty, becomes the exact same pattern that the Buddha walked, that the Christ walked, and that mystics have described. All mystics have described, meaning that a return to ultimate truth through inner ignition. So when you go deeper into this, you realize that narcissistic abuse as a technology leads to the following. It leads to a psychological collapse because narcissistic abuse fractures the empath's internalized persona. It fractures the constructed inner self created to avoid pain, to avoid rejection and abandonment. And this collapse creates a spiritual vacuum where real identity begins. Going even further, chronic trauma, the kind of trauma that you've experienced, disrupts what is known as the default mode network, which is the neural architecture of the ego. And this same disruption, when you go through kind of this chronic trauma, is the same thing that happens in long-term meditators. It's the same thing that happens in monks. It's the same thing that happens with people who go on psychedelic-induced mystical states. It's the same that happens when you are connected to your heart. That trauma involuntarily initiates what meditation voluntarily cultivates. Am I making sense? Am I connected? If I'm making sense, just type transform in the comment section. Let me know I'm talking to you. If I'm talking to you, type transform in the comment section what I just said. You see, if I'm talking to you, I want to know I'm talking to you. You see, trauma involuntarily initiates what meditation voluntarily cultivates. Thank you. You see, because in every esoteric tradition, it's taught that you cannot see truth until illusion dies. You cannot awaken until all identity collapses. You cannot rise until the previous self dissolves. Narcissistic abuse is the chosen alchemical phase, the dark night that precedes the inner dawn. Am I talking to you? This is what happens. So this is talked about in Buddhism in the same way it happens to you in narcissistic abuse. That in Buddhism, Nirvana is not delivered by the Buddha. It is realized through your own inner insights. It is said, be a lump unto yourself, not as advice, because it's metaphysical law. In the Christian world, it is said, Christ consciousness does not come from ritual. Christ consciousness ignites when the ego dies and the heart becomes luminous. In Hinduism, it said the guru removes the obstacle, right? The guru removes the obstacle, greetings, but the self is the liberator. And in Sufism, it is said, in Islam, fana, ego annihilation, and baka, abiding in the one, are internal events not granted by the master. Or in the movie The Matrix, Morpheus said, I can only show you the door. But Neo walks through it alone. Self-initiation is the only path. It is also said in the Vedanta, the self recognizes the self through the self. The self recognizes the self through the self. This is the purest expression of self-initiation, meaning that every awakened person arrives through the same doorway, which is inner ignition, not external guidance. Inner ignition, not external guidance. So how is it that awakened people can recognize each other? And if this resonates with you, just type transform in the comments. Awakened beings share a measurable physiology, whether it's a high vagal tone or hard brain coherence or decreased egoic chatter. And so the awakened nervous system broadcasts coherence, inner ignition. That leads to a broadcast of coherence, Leon. Also, awakened people sense the truth field in one another, whether it's based on your presence, your clarity, your authenticity, your freedom from illusions, your equanimity. It is not belief that unites awakened beings. It is the direct access to absolute truth. You see? And then traditions teach that awakened beings radiate a different photonic aura, a different eye light, a different coherent biofield, and a steady electromagnetic signature. Hope for health. This is why awakened beings know each other without speaking. So the question is, why is it that so many empaths don't complete the journey? They get stuck because most empaths get stuck at survival. Few actually reach transcendence. Why? Because of the narcissistic spell. The narcissistic spell or the trauma bond is physiological, it's psychological, it's neurological, it's biochemical, it is spiritual, and it's energetic. So breaking these trauma bonds requires a complete nervous system rewiring, and most people can't do that. The second is because after you leave narcissistic abuse, it's almost like being in a void. And after leaving, the empath enters this identity vacuum. I don't know who I am. I used to be a wife. I used to be a husband. I used to be a daughter. I used to be a son. I used to be a person. And so that stage becomes very terrifying, that most return back to the familiar pain. You see, this is what happens. And then the other reason is the empath must walk alone before being awakened. This mirrors Christ in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, or the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree by themselves, or the Prophet Muhammad in the cave, or even Milarepa being in the mountain. Most people cannot endure the hermit mode phase, the phase of being alone, not having anyone around you. So it's important to realize that escaping narcissistic abuse is an act of self-initiation. Yes, it can be divine. It's an act of self-initiation, because to escape narcissistic abuse is not just to leave the narcissist. To escape is to leave. This is very important. 3 years alone, my goodness. To escape the narcissist is to leave the version of yourself that tolerated the narcissist. You see what I'm saying, Jack, Sarah, Kiki, Michael? Because to escape narcissistic abuse is the initiation of your sovereignty. Even if you're not all the way there, it's the initiation of your consciousness. It's the initiation of your energetic autonomy. It's the initiation of truth. It's the initiation of self-authority. And the empath emerges self-created and self-sanctioned. Do you see? So the empath who completes this journey, when self-initiation completes, the empath becomes a sovereign being. Sovereign meaning that you're no longer dependent on things outside you. It's a process. You see, this is the move from Babylon to Zion. You see, that's the this is a place of nirvana. You become a sovereign planet. No narcissist can gain access to you when you are sovereign in this way, energetically or psychologically. And the empath who completes this journey becomes a mirror of ultimate truth. This is why you would activate people's demons just by being present. The empath who completes this journey becomes a holder of unity consciousness, because the empath who has completed this journey, Dawn Marie, can perceive interconnectedness, can perceive timelines, can see karmic loops and ancestral patterns, can see illusions live. This is because the empath who has completed the journey now has a self-regulating nervous system. And as a result, like Gandhi said, my life is my message, you become a living portal. Just like the portal I was at yesterday. You become a living portal because you do not transmit information. You start to transmit frequency. If anything I'm saying to you here is connect and type transform, because I want to know I'm not just talking to myself. Let me know I'm talking to you and not just talking to myself. You see? So narcissistic abuse, thank you, Dawn Marie. Narcissistic abuse accelerates the journey from separation, Suckle and Struck. It moves you from separation to unity. It doesn't mean that you like everybody, but it means you love everyone. It moves you from ego, Cynthia, to essence, Janice. It moves you from being a victim or being in victimhood, and it moves you into sovereignty. It moves you from fragmentation into coherence. Is it that we start to transmit frequency? The frequency is already there. You just didn't know it was. That's why you were transmitting low vibration. But the moment you start to say to myself, I love you as you are, and I forgive everybody who's hurt me, and you mean that genuinely, you activate this frequency of coherence. It's not you who does it. It is that you become aligned just by the act of releasing. Now, the empath becomes the embodiment of non-dual awareness. You see, meaning that you no longer seek validation outside you. Unified pulse, you no longer project fantasies on anyone. And you're no longer trying to live other people's karma for them. In other words, you're no longer collapsing into other people's wounds. You begin to live from the inner eye. From a practical perspective, this means that you can make the life you want. This is what it's about. Because after self-initiation, the empath is not merely spiritually awakened. You become functionally unstoppable in the material world. Functionally unstoppable when you start to know that you can do it and you believe it. Your decision making becomes precise and effortless because you're not hindered by opinion. Because you're no more overgiving, you're no longer overthinking, you're no longer mired in self-doubt, you're no longer making fear-based choices, you're no longer people-pleasing. You please people, but you're not people-pleasing. This is how you unlock what Neville Goddard calls inspired action. Do this, do that, don't do this, eat that. So this part of you begins to make decisions from clarity, decisions from intuition, decisions from coherence, and decisions from inner authority. This dramatically accelerates life creation because there's alignment. You also find that your relationships begin to recalibrate, Abman, meaning that you stop attracting narcissists. You stop eventually attracting emotional vampires because your boundaries are stronger. You stop attracting chaotic partners, intimate, business, otherwise. You stop playing the savior to victim dynamics. And you begin to attract aligned collaborators. You begin to attract emotionally available partners. You begin to attract secure friendships. And you begin to attract spiritual peers because you become a mirror of what you want. because your relational field has become clean. Remember, you only attracted these narcissistic types in your life because you were mired in self-loathing, low self-esteem, based on the spells that were cast on you and I. You see? So your nervous system also becomes a manifestation engine, meaning that when the nervous system stabilizes into coherence, where you're not letting thoughts put you up and down, your manifestation increases and accelerates. And also because you're taking inspired action, that becomes self-fulfilling. Synchronicities increase. Aligned opportunities arrive. Abundance flows. It doesn't matter what the economy is doing. Your creativity ignites. This is not simply law of attraction talk. It's the physics of a coherent biofield. Because remember, all relationships as well as the universe are simply mirrors. Your boundaries also become very energetic, not just verbal, meaning that you don't have to say no loudly. Your field says no before your mouth does. You see? Because you're protecting your time, you're protecting your money, you're protecting your energy, you're protecting your purpose. And then your purpose becomes obvious. What is your purpose? I'm asking you. And if you know your purpose, say to yourself aloud, this is my purpose. Or if you're not sure, tell yourself you're becoming available to your purpose. But the awakened empath begins to see, right, what you are here to build. Discernment and boundaries, Leanne. What you are here to lead. What you are here to teach. Those who abandon you are not your problem. Whoever comes, comes. Whoever goes, goes. That's detachment. The moment you get into attachment, you're creating new karma bonds, unified pulse. You begin to know what you are here to teach. You begin to understand that the specific mission that you are here to embody was encoded in the trauma you went through. You begin to realize that the evolutionary purpose of your suffering was to awaken you. Now, when this happens, you no longer chase love. You're no longer chasing people to give you things. You're no longer chasing validation. Well, if you did it, you wouldn't have said the thing about the people. You're bypassing yourself, unified pulse, but only you can see that. You don't have to agree with me, but I'm just telling you, because the universe is like a blockchain. What you put in is what you get out. So if you've truly forgiven people and you've let them go, you wouldn't have made references to them. You see? So you are enjoying your victimhood. I'm just being direct. There's no time to play around. Now, what happens is your creativity unlocks at a high order. It does, Dawn Marie. And the awakened empath begins to create from intuition, from heart intelligence, from inner stillness, which I was just telling this person, unified light, and from direct spiritual insight, not from fear of proving something. And you deal with all your money wounds, and it takes time. I know this. Money becomes a reflection of alignment, not survival, because energy is no longer leaking. Your boundaries are firm. Trauma loops are gone or diminishing. And your embodiment is stable. You realize that there may be times where your life may feel boring, because peace can feel boring in the beginning. Dawn Marie, you see, your life becomes simpler, no longer chaotic and complicated, and sometimes being in the twilight zone. I remember there were times in the past I would be in the twilight zone, like, how did I get to this place? You see? And you no longer react to life. You see, you begin to generate life because you realize that this is the power of self-initiation. You become the architect. It takes practice. Just like we practice in giving away our power, we have to get practice in using our power, and it takes time. You see? So in conclusion here, escaping narcissistic abuse is the empath's rite of passage into sovereignty. St. Michael, this is the path to sovereignty, Ellie. You see? Because self-initiation is the doorway. Oh, I'm so sorry you feel like that. You see? And unity consciousness is the destination. You may call it nirvana, you may call it the Holy Spirit, you may call it Christ consciousness, whatever you call it. That when you practice being sovereign, you become sovereign. Because the reason why we got trapped in narcissistic abuse is we practice being under the spell. And once the empath completes this journey, the empath no longer lives life, the empath creates life. You see, life comes from inspired action. You begin to create life. And you create life not from fear, not from pain, not from trauma, but from sovereignty, stillness, and truth. So the awakened empath does not return to the world as you were. This is the whole Joseph Campbell awakening path, right? You return as who you always were, as the baby, the innocent baby, awakening to truth. This is what it's about. So awakening ultimately is about self-initiation. No one can tell you, but the only way you know that you are awakened is by the fruits of your actions. By realizing that you're no longer the person you used to be. This is how you know you've shifted. You see? And this is how you remain shifted, realizing that it was your ability to desire and manifest love and loveful vibrations is why you're here. And that's how you were able to escape hate. You were able to escape hate by using love. Because only love can break you out of the spell of narcissistic abuse in the hell realm. This is it. And only you know it. And the only way to do it is to embody it. You cannot wish it. You cannot hope for it. You have to be it. Because the only thing that frees you from narcissistic abuse is love. The only thing that keeps you trapped in narcissistic abuse is hate. Hate of any form. Self-hate, self-frustration, self-loathing, self-flagellation, on and on and on and on. Never give up, Jack. So this is what it's about. This is what it's about. You see? And I think there's some questions here. Let's take some questions here. That's Cheryl Owens. Let's take your question. This is what happens when you wake up. You see? And only you know that it's happened. You know you've awakened when you begin to really like yourself and love being with yourself. So much so that anything that doesn't feel like love becomes very apparent to you, very obvious to you. And that's how you know you're freeing yourself. You see? You're freeing yourself. It is only love that can free you, nothing else. You see, anything else keeps you trapped in a new karmic loop. And when we say love, we're not talking about the Pollyanna-ish love. We're talking about saying to yourself, I want better for myself. I do not deserve to be disrespected. I do not deserve to be taken for granted. I do not deserve to be around for people who are not going to be around for me when I need them to be. When you begin to realize that you are worthy, this is what happens. When you realize that you are worthy. And that's simply what self-love is about. So let's get some questions in here. Let's see who wants to jump in. Invite a couple of you, see if you want to come in. You see, and then and tell your story. This is what it's about. How love freed you. You see, we escape the puppetry because the only way the puppetry works is with hate. Look around you. Everyone who woke up afraid today woke up afraid because hate was triggered and activated in them. It's as simple as that. The matrix doesn't work without hate because when you hate, you have to dissociate. And when you're dissociated, you're not in connection with yourself. And when you're not in connection with yourself, you're fragmented. And when you're fragmented, how can you come to oneness? You cannot. Impossible. You cannot. You see? You won't be able to do it. You won't be able to do it. You see, I think some folks are having difficulties joining, but let's see how it works. You won't be able to do it. Hi, Rafaela. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm well.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Good morning.
Greetings.
I'm still waking up.
That's all right. So tell us how you use your own experience with narcissistic abuse to come to your awakening.
Well, it's interesting that you were talking about that today, because yesterday I had a prompt to grab one of my old journals, because I journal, and I grabbed a journal that I started writing in November, which is so serendipity, of 2020. I had just freshly escaped a sociopath narcissist, and I was on this road alone, and I wrote this entry where I was basically, hating on myself and wanting to do whatever that it is I needed to do in order to feel loved and accepted. And in this entry, I was literally aware that I was being someone else and not myself. And yet, in the entry, I still wanted to continue to be that person. And as I read that, I said to myself, I thought that was me. It was so unrecognizable that I said, I didn't even remember that being me. Like, I did not remember that. I didn't feel like that must have been somebody else who wrote that, because that possibly couldn't have been me, because of the work that I've done over the years of finding my self-worth, of loving myself, of creating the boundaries, of, like you said, now when people, you can't even come close if you show up as that person. It's almost like a repellent. I became a repellent as opposed to a magnet.
And I think what you're saying is so important, because I think if I'm on the listening end and I hear self-love, it sounds so new agey. What is this self-love business? What is this thing? But what we're talking about is the self-care practices, the internal dialogue, right? The being quiet with yourself and hearing and allowing yourself to cry and to write your feelings on paper or digitally, right? To actually do that purging, watch your diet, what you're reading, right? What are some practical things that you did that have shifted you from there to now? Just for those who are listening.
Okay, so I did a combination of things. Well, my main one, which is where I am right now, sitting down in my altar, is meditation. And I tell this to people all the time, like, if you don't do anything else with your life, create a space where you're going to sit and be with yourself, look at yourself, face yourself, not from a place of judgment. And it takes practice to not look at yourself from a place of judgment, but really begin to, sit and be with yourself. I think that's, for me, was always the starting point. And everywhere that I travel, I created a space where I was always with myself. Like, I created a corner, I was always with myself. Another thing that I did is I did like a cleansing of what I listened to, of what I read, of what I was watching. I began to create what I needed. I made a list of things that I needed, and then I began to pursue those things. So it's not just writing. It wasn't about what I wanted. It was about what I needed. I needed to have this, and I need to have that. And where can I go find it? And I began to look for those avenues, either through books, through podcasts, through, people that I follow on Instagram. I began to clean up what I wanted to see, and eventually begin to change. And another thing is understanding also what's going on in your body, because a lot of things I think are trapped in your body. So somatic work for me is dancing, releasing some of those things in your body. Start paying attention to where there's pain, where there's discomfort. So I began following a woman who did somatic work. I did somatic classes. So it wasn't all at once, but, like I always say, do one thing, then that one thing is going to open up to do another thing and another thing. And then all of a sudden, 5 years later, you're reading a journal entry, like, who the heck is that? And I also changed some of my spiritual practices, because some things I think that we carry that have been trapped in us is also come from a religious space, not to, belittle any religious things, but for me, some things weren't working anymore. And I began to tap in more into the spiritual space and began to look at myself as that co-creator with God, with the creator, not just, I began to look within myself, that kingdom of God within myself. And begin to reach for that space. Like if the kingdom of God is within, I need to find it. And how do I do that? And that started my quest.
Everything you said is exactly what we're talking about. Self-initiation.
Yeah. It's all on myself.
That's it. I mean, we learn from wherever we learn from, because many have walked the path before us. But nobody can walk the path for you. No. You have to do it. Several initiations, not just one. Several.
So you were talking about the hermit. We go through that hermit stage several times. Several mountains.
It's about getting to the root cause until there are no more what's called in Buddhism defilements. No more. There's no new karma. This is it. This is exactly it. So very, very helpful. I just want to encourage someone out there, if you are in that path, this is it.
To it and write it down. It's always good to look back and say, "OMG, look how far I have come."
Who's that person?
Like, who is that? So it was really good.
Oh, and you even fall in love with yourself more after seeing how far you've come.
Listen, this new person that I look in the mirror, I say, there's no way. And here's one more thing. There was a letter that I wrote to myself that I didn't feel it then, but I was writing how much I love. I wrote a love letter to myself back then as well, but I didn't comprehend it until now.
This is it. There's nothing outside. There's nothing outside, Rafaela, and thank you so much as always. This is it. This is it. Sending you good energy for the week, man. One love, one love, one love. You heard it. 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 Nobody can do this for you. No one can do it for you. We can all share stories on the path, but your love is on the mountain, like Chronix is saying right here. Your love is on the mountain, nowhere else. Your love is on the mountain. Your love is on the mountain. Woo! And that mountain is within. And all you have to do is sit. You see, just sit. Even if you're not familiar with it, just sit. This is the purpose of your pain. And even the place you sit doesn't have to be quiet. You have to get quiet. You have to get quiet. You see? So, for those who are serious about this journey and want to learn more, book a session with me at innermileage.com. Innermileage.com. Yeah, you can find me at innermileage.com. If you're ready to go deeper, book a free session there. If you want to unlock this within you, it's like magic, but it isn't. It's just about repetition and focus. It's based on the observer effect from quantum physics. Energy goes where attention is. That's as simple as it. So, innermileage.com. If we align, let's get to work. And I'm sending you good energy. We'll be back here on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Until then, give thanks. Yes, love is on the mountain. Remember that. Let me play this again. Love is on the mountain. Remember that. Love is on the mountain. Thank you so much. Innermileage.com. Book a free session. Inner Mileage, sending you love and gratitude. One love. One love. One love. One love, yes. One love. One love. One love. Give thanks. 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 Woo.